This is We the Sales Engineers podcast, show 244. 244.
Welcome to We the SEs podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramsey Majaba.
What's up, SE Nation? Welcome back to another episode. I am your host, Ramsey. I am your host, Ramsey Majaba. In case you didn't know that, if this is the first time listening, this is an awkward introduction. If you've been here before, welcome back. Today, we're talking to not a sales engineer, not a salesperson, no one in SaaS. We're talking to a mechanical engineer who had to start his own business. My guest today is a gentleman by the name of Aaron Moncur, and I've been on his podcast a few months ago. I'll leave a link to that in the show notes. Throughout our conversation on his podcast, we talked about having soft skills for any kind of engineering. I just realized that he does a lot of the things that we do, maybe more sales oriented, but being a business owner, he has way too many hats, from being technical to sales and to running the business. So I wanted to have him on and to discuss that, because we do have mechanical engineers and civil engineers who are listening to this who might resonate. But also, if you're a sales engineer who wants to start their own thing, and I talk to many sales engineers who want to start their own SaaS company or their own consulting company, guess what? If you do that, you're no longer in sales engineering. You're now sales, because you're selling your services. So I wanted to bring him on to discuss that and talk about what he likes, what he doesn't like, and pick his brain about how he went about it. So without further ado, let's just jump into the show. Well, this is a great start to a conversation, Mr. Aaron Moncur, where instead of recording, I actually ended the meeting. I'm happy you came back. And I need to let the people know what you've had to go through before we even start this conversation. I appreciate you being here. How you doing?
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you. I thought you had enough of me so quickly. You're like, let's just shut this down right away. We don't need to hear any more from Aaron today.
All you said was hi. I blame my kids. You ever read the book Extreme Ownership?
I actually just read it a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm going the opposite direction, and I'm blaming my kids.
It was my kid's fault, not me.
So I will not take ownership for just hitting the end button.
Well, anyway, there's also the dichotomy of leadership where he kind of goes back, right, and says, yeah, you have to take ownership over everything, but like not 100% kind of. So maybe there's some room for, yeah, my kids screwed this up.
Yeah, I didn't teach them to come and tell me ahead of time not to click the end button. That's right. Okay. All right. So Aaron, thank you for being here. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so my name is Aaron Moncur. I am in my early-ish 40s right now, and I'm a mechanical engineer. I guess by education, I'm a mechanical engineer. By what I am actually doing these days, I'm a business owner. I started pipeline design and engineering about 13 years ago. And in the beginning, I was the only employee, so I did everything. These days, I luckily have a team of people who are much more capable than I am when it comes to the technical side of things. And I get to spend my time focusing on growing the business, a large part of which is sales.
Okay. So many questions about why did you study mechanical engineering? I don't know how many people who study mechanical engineering think, oh, I'm going to go start off my own thing. You were an employee at one point, right?
That's right. Yeah. I have always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit, but it was in the background. I did little things. A friend of mine and I, we started a photography business on the side and did that for 4 or 5 years. I started a little web design business where it was just me building small websites for small businesses. When I was a kid, I sold baseball cards to kids at school. And so I was, I've always been into some kind of enterprising activity, but I never had this expectation that I was going to start truly my own business. It was just not a thought that was part of my intentions growing up, or even as a younger adult. The way I got into being a business owner was I got laid off.
Okay.
And I was an employee for about 3.5 years right out of college. I worked at a great engineering company here locally, and lots of smart people there, exciting work. But at a certain point, I just kind of got disengaged from the engineering work there. And I think what it comes down to is I got bored.
Okay.
And so I kind of stopped caring to a certain extent. And the folks running that business, they're very intelligent people. They could tell that my heart wasn't really in it anymore.
Yeah.
And that was the same time as the 2008, 2009 recession. So business slowed down for them a bit, and they ended up laying me off because it was clear that I was not one of the most motivated people on the team at that point. And that's when I started Pipeline.
Okay. By the way, you said you were in your early 40s. You don't look a day over 51. Sorry.
Perfect. In wisdom, you mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's only it's the beard. By the way, if people should check this out on YouTube. If you get to see Aaron's face, and you can tell that he doesn't look 40. I honestly thought you were younger than me.
Yeah, I have to wear a beard because otherwise I look like I'm 12 and then I don't get anything done.
So, all right, you get laid off. You went from being disengaged. At what point did you did you try to find other jobs, or do you just go, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna do my own thing?
Yeah, I did. I mentioned the photography thing and the web design thing, and I was still doing those things when I got laid off. So luckily, I had some other things bringing in a little bit of revenue, not enough to cover all my costs of living. To make matters worse, at the time, I was newly-ish married a year or two, and we had just had our first son. So we had a little baby to take care of, and I had a wife, and we had just purchased a house. We had a mortgage, right? And so I've got all these new-ish expenses, and all of a sudden I don't have any, or at least I don't have sufficient income to afford all this. So I
Yes.
remember feeling sick to my stomach for several days after I got laid off, thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to support my family? And so I continued with the photography and the web design, and I started exploring very different careers. I looked into commercial real estate at one point, and my father-in-law pulled me aside one day and he said, "Hey, you spent a long time investing in becoming an engineer. Are you sure that you want to just discard that and move on to something else entirely?" And he suggested that maybe it wasn't engineering that I had fallen out of love with, but it was just the way in which I was doing engineering. And that was a subtle difference in the way I had been thinking about it, but an important enough one that I thought, maybe you're right. Maybe there's a different way I can approach engineering and still really love it again. And so that's when I decided to start my own company and see how it goes.
Oh, great coaching advice from your father-in-law, no less. I don't know
Yes.
how I would have taken that. So I have a very good relationship with my father-in-law, but still, I don't know how I would have taken that. So you're a better person than me. Okay, what is Pipeline? What do you do with Pipeline, and how did you decide to do that?
In the early days, it was general product design. So we would have designed an iPhone case or a medical device or maybe some solar power equipment. It was very broad and general. Over the years, we've kind of refined that a little bit, and now our focus is more on developing custom equipment and fixtures and machinery, automation for R&D and manufacturing teams. But I guess to state it very simply, we're a group of mechanical engineers.
Okay, my brother is one. Doesn't mean anything to me. But
We design and build things.
yeah. Well, that's what he says. And I say I design and build networks, and he doesn't care. It's like, all right, boo-hoo.
They're both important. Yeah.
Yeah. It's important to me. Like what he does is important to him. What I do is important to me. It's fun, at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how did you know that doing that is gonna spark your, I guess, love again for engineering?
Well, I didn't. I thought it might. And after spending 7 years going to college and getting a couple of degrees in mechanical engineering, I thought I guess I should at least give it another shot and see how it goes, right? But very quickly, I realized that instead of just being a cog in the machine, I could be the machine and have high level ownership over the entire process. And that really was transformational for me, being able to not focus just on like one little detail that maybe my boss tells me to work on, but um, analyzing the project as a whole and coming up with the strategic approach to it and executing all of the technical details as well. That was a lot of fun.
Okay. And you were kind of a one-man band, you mentioned. You started doing the engineering. So this is a sales engineering podcast. And a lot of engineers that come into sales engineering don't know anything about it and don't know how to do it, and there's no one to teach them. But there are other teammates that they can watch.
Yeah,
How, like, you had no one to watch. You were a one-man band. How
that
did you
is
learn
true.
the sales part? And you were doing everything. You were sales engineering, post-sales,
Yeah,
product
absolutely.
management. How did
I
you do
wore
it?
all the hats. Well, I I guess I'm lucky enough to have a personality that um, uh, I'm comfortable putting myself out there and knowing that I'm probably going to make a whole bunch of mistakes, but it has to be done. So let's just jump in and do it. That's always the attitude that I've had just in life. I'll figure it out. I
Yeah.
think that was one of the great things that I learned at engineering school at university, that it taught me how to think. And so I just had the confidence that I'll figure this out. I don't know how to do it exactly, but I'm going to jump in and I'll figure it out.
Yeah. A lot of us wait to be perfect and we never actually go out and try.
Yeah.
We try to figure out before doing, like, but I'm curious, like, with the way you're doing things from a time management perspective, how did you do everything? Like, you were doing sales. Did you just go out and do go get one sale, come back, do whatever it is that they need to do, go out and get the next sale? Or how did you work around it?
I was lucky enough to have a couple of jobs early on. I'd been working in the industry for 3, 4 years, and so I knew some people already. And I reached out and I said, "Hey, I'm going off on my own, just doing a freelance thing. You have any projects that you need help with?" And a couple of people responded and said, "Yeah, I could use some help." So I had a few jobs to start with, and there were a couple of instances where the work started to slow down a little bit. And when it slowed down, I thought, okay, well, I could twiddle my thumbs or I could start hitting the phones and see what else I can drum up. And so I remember just searching the internet for any kind of directories that might give me a list of people I could call, companies. I remember I used the CES website a lot. And I would they have a list of exhibitors there, right? And all these exhibitors, they're hardware manufacturers. They're creating products and they're selling their products. And so I would go through that exhibitor list, and they have contact information in there. At least they did back then when I was looking at it. And I would just cold call people and say, "Hey, I can help you develop new products. Anything we should talk about?" And I got lucky and found a few people there who were willing to give me a shot, and things kind of just rolled on from there.
Did you have a script? Or did you think of a script, or did you just call and see what happens?
I don't remember for sure. I'm sure I had some kind of script because that's how I always work. I like to put together systems to do things. And flying by the seat of my pants has never been a winning recipe for me. So I'm sure I had some kind of script I was using, but I don't recall what it was.
Okay. Well, you sound like a mechanical engineer if you have all these systems.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now, 10 years later, it's been more than 10 years actually.
Yeah, a little over 13 now.
Do you still do cold calling, or do you have business coming to you all the time?
I don't do very much cold calling. We have a director of business development that does some of that, but I still do quite a bit of myself as well. And we have enough of a history these days that we get a lot of referrals and repeat work. But I still do cold calling every now and then, and I absolutely still spend time every week doing just general sales work.
Okay. And now that you've been doing it for a while, so you did engineering, I don't know, 15 years now. sales for many years as well. What is your preference? Do you like, you said you gave up the technical stuff. Do you have other people do the technical stuff? Why? I guess I'll stop there. Why?
Yeah. Why? Okay, that's a good question. Let me think about that. Why did I give up the technical stuff? Okay, it was because the only way to grow the business was for me to stop spending my time on the technical stuff so I could focus on actually growing the business. So I hired engineers and project leads and project managers, and now we have a couple of directors as well. And they largely take care of the day-to-day engineering side of things, which opens me up quite a bit to focus on sales and business development. And I mentioned that we also have a director of business development, so he's been very helpful as well.
Was it hard to give it up?
No, it wasn't, honestly. I enjoy doing some design work every now and then still, but that it was a wonderful time in my professional life where that's what my focus was. But that period is over, and I'm grateful for it, and also happy to move on to the next challenge.
And the next challenge was sales.
The next challenge was sales. Yeah. So I feel like there have been I don't know, steps along the way, or different phases. And initially I was the technician, right? And then I became the project manager, and then I became the sales guy, and now I'm kind of the sales guy slash business leader, where I'm kind of creating the vision for what Pipeline is in the future.
I would like, I don't know what you just define it one way. I would define it very differently.
Okay.
I would say at first you were everything, and then you gave up the technician.
That's true. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, because you weren't just a technician, because otherwise you wouldn't have business at all.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Did you feel like you were good at sales initially, and like, you must have had to answer a lot of technical questions, which could have helped because you're also a technician.
Yeah.
How did you improve in sales? Do you feel like you're good? Do you ever feel like you're good?
I think it is a work in progress still, and I've certainly improved over the years. I don't feel like I'm necessarily a natural sales guy. You think of the salesperson as someone who speaks very easily and just gets along with everyone, is kind of the fun-loving guy, and I do get along with everyone. Actually, I'm pretty easy to get along with, and I enjoy people. But I am not like the outgoing fun guy. I'm certainly an introvert, very much so. And it's always kind of a push for me to go out of my comfort zone and start talking to people that I don't know and who don't know me.
Yeah. How do you feel like being an introvert has helped you as a sales business owner, salesperson?
I think one of the greatest skills a salesperson can have is their ability to shut up and listen. And I'm pretty good at listening, because I don't like interrupting people. That's something I'm pretty good at. Yeah.
Okay. Was it hard work to be able to shut up and like? I'm an introvert, but I find if a customer is asking a question and I know the answer to it, I want to interrupt them mid-sentence and give them the answer. And it took a lot of work for me to. It took a lot of practice, and having senior people on my team laugh at me when I do that for me to stop doing it.
Yeah.
Was it hard work for you to become a listener, or was it more natural?
I think that was pretty natural for me. That was something I was just always, I had this innate, I don't know, talent for.
Okay. And how has being an introvert hindered your career or your business ownership?
We go to a trade show each year. It's the MD&M, Medical Devices and Manufacturing Trade Show in Anaheim. And what we do there is we exhibit. We have a booth, right? And we try and find new customers. Every time I talk to someone new, it's easier now, but it still requires me to like push myself and be uncomfortable talking with someone new. And I think that's part of being an introvert. Contrast with one of the team members who has been coming with us to this show each year. He's someone at Pipeline as well. He is so comfortable just going up and talking to anyone. My son, one of my sons, is actually the same way. He'll go up and talk to anyone, no fear, no hesitation whatsoever. And that is not a skill that I have.
Sounds like my wife. She has that skill where she just walks up to anybody, and I'm 6'2", 290 pounds. I'm intimidating to
Yeah.
begin with, and yet I feel like I don't want to go talk to these people. I don't want to bother them.
I
Right?
feel like that all the time,
Yeah.
and I have to
And then
push myself mentally past that.
my wife is 5'2". She just walk up under someone. It's like, hey, what are you guys talking about? Like, how do you do that? She's not in sales. I wish she was in sales.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, what skills as a mechanical engineer have you been able to apply into sales, if any?
I think taking a systemized approach to
Okay.
sales for sure. That's another thing that I'm pretty good at. I think is organization and coming up with systems to attack problems. So, in fact, I hired a sales guy a couple of years ago, and I kind of assumed that this was someone who has been in sales for a long time. So I kind of assumed that he would come in and put together, all these systems for himself to go out and do his job. And what I learned was that really wasn't the case. And after a couple of months, I had to step in and build those systems for him.
Like, what systems are we talking about?
Let's see. So just identifying the type of content that we wanted to put out there, identifying the customers that we wanted to call on, what message we were going to share with them, tracking like who we called and who we haven't called, keeping a list of open items, making sure we're following up with the right people at the right times, things like that. Kind of basic things, but one thing I've learned is these things for me they're simple and basic and intuitive, and they just seem really easy. And so erroneously, I've believed for a long time that was universally true. And what I've learned over the years is that's not the case. Most people they don't think like that.
Most people play it by ear.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't followed up with that person in like 3 months.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
I'm having lunch. I thought about that person. I'll send them a text, and then I won't think about them for another 6 months. A lot of salespeople, they are good actually. They're not bad, unless they're desperate. Like if they're in a spot where they're not hitting their quota,
Yeah.
you see them having systems at that time. But but when they're not hitting quota, when they're hitting quotas, like let's relax.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need systems. And I feel like systems is something sales engineers should have, but is never talked about, like specifically sales engineers. And we don't do content, although we could have a system for that. What is your system for content? I mean, I would imagine you just write a blog or put a video, in your case, a podcast. You do have a podcast. I was on it recently. People should check it out. What is the name of the podcast?
Being an engineer.
Being an engineer. For some reason, every time I was writing it and messaging you, I was writing becoming an engineer, and then I have to delete becoming and write being an engineer.
In the present.
What is the content system?
It's always evolving. I like to think of these things as like guiding principles and supporting behaviors. So the guiding principle for sales for me is just always be front of mind with my leads and my prospects. Always have a reason to reach out to them, touch base, and share something interesting. And so the supporting behavior behind that, one that I use anyway, this is just like an example of how to achieve the guiding principle. The supporting behavior is always be thinking of interesting content that you can share. And so, for example, we're developing a new program right now called The Wave. It's a tool for engineers, and it's new and it's kind of a paradigm shift. So that's something that I reach out to people and say, hey, we're doing this new thing. What do you think about this? What kind of feedback can you share with me? We finish new projects all the time, and so there's this like wheel that turns, that spits out new content from new projects that we finished, and I can share that with people. Hey, we just finished this cool new piece of automation equipment. If you guys ever needed anything like this, check this out. So there's always new things that are coming up, and the goal, the why there is just keep in touch with people on a regular basis.
I mean, the way I hear it, the system could be just like having set time aside to sit down and think about what you're gonna come up with. And like,
Yeah, at this point, I don't even have to think about it because just organically there's stuff happening at the company. And okay, I see this thing. I'm going to put that on the side and use that as content I share with people. Oh, this thing is happening. Okay, great. I'll put that aside. And I create these little email templates in Outlook. You can just create a folder in your Outlook tree, and it's called email templates. And I put together something that's kind of generic but has relevant, interesting information. And then in our CRM, I have a task list of people that I'm supposed to contact today and tomorrow and next week and next month. And I just look through that task list and say, okay, I'm supposed to reach out to Jerry today, keep in touch with him. I'll open up my email templates folder in Outlook and say, oh, this one is new. He'd find this interesting. And I'll send that out to him. And I'll just do that over and over and over with all my contacts.
yeah. So if you're new, if someone's new and hasn't done that, like they have to set time aside or whatever. Start the process with setting time aside. You've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Did it just come naturally, or did you have to actually stop and think about what you're going to send or what templates are going to be?
I don't think it came totally naturally. In the beginning, it was really lame stuff, right? Like, oh, do you have any projects coming up that we can help with, right? Just
Okay.
not very interesting. And then
Yeah.
over time, I was like, I can do better than that. I can teach them something, or I can share something that they would find interesting or entertaining.
How did you learn that?
A lot of failure.
Because like if there's Anthony Iannarino, there's a lot of big sales people who say like always lead with value. The checking in email is kind of useless,
Oh yeah, I hate that.
but if you send an email with some value, you can
Yeah.
always ask to check it, like, hey, let's do a meeting to discuss whatever I sent you or stuff like that.
Yeah, it's something that this is all a process for me, right? I am by no means the best sales guy out there, not even close. I'm still learning a lot, and so I'm still trying to get better and improve my sales approach. And one of the things I've been doing lately, and it seems silly, hindsight is 2020, right? That I didn't think about this a lot earlier, but I'll it, it's sometimes hard to get people to respond, right? Everyone's busy, they're doing their thing. Even if you send out interesting content, people might not respond because they're just busy or whatever. But if you ask people to help you with something, I find that the response rate is quite a bit better. And so I have started sending out content that's more, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing, but I'm not really sure exactly what the best approach is for this aspect of it. What do you think? Can you help me with that? And people oftentimes will respond. And it's not disingenuous at all, because these are real problems that I'm trying to solve. And so people are giving me really great advice or feedback on these problems. And I'm getting the opportunity to keep in touch with them. What a great example of this is, there was a guy who I had called on for about a year and a half, and no response ever. I emailed this guy, left voicemails, sent LinkedIn messages, all very polite and not like overly aggressive, but persistent for sure. And no response at all for a year and a half. Finally, he responded to me because he was looking for a new opportunity, and just so happens that there could be a good fit for us to work together. So he did respond, and we got to know each other a little bit. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy. Super happy that we finally connected, and we have a good enough relationship at this point that I reached out to him and it's like, hey, why didn't you respond before? Like what was I doing or what wasn't I doing that was hindering progress? And he gave me some of the best feedback that I have ever gotten as far as my sales approach. So like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna keep going on for a little bit longer
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
I'm thinking about other things here. I know I've been talking a lot. I said I'm
Oh,
really
hey,
good at
it's
listening.
good for me.
Well,
I get to
yeah,
relax.
maybe not. Maybe I'm really good at talking too. But I had a sales coach for a while, Sandler Selling, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was good content. And one of the greatest things he shared with me was take what's on the inside, put it on the outside, and talk about it. And that's you have this feeling, but maybe you don't feel like it's appropriate, or it might be awkward to share that feeling with a customer. No. Take what's in the inside, put it on the outside, and talk about it. So calling up your leads, your prospects, and saying, hey, I don't know if I'm very good at this. I tend to not get like the best response rate. What can I do better? What am I doing wrong? Can you help me? You'll be shocked at how willing people are to give you some good advice.
Well, you're basically showing that you're not a salesperson.
Exactly. Yes.
So what did that gentleman tell you? Like, is that what that he works with Sandler, or I thought you worked with Sandler and that's
No. Sorry, I was going all over the place. So I had a coach at Sandler. That was one thing. He gave me the take what's on the inside. This other guy that I had been trying to contact for a year and a half. He told me two things that were really helpful. One of the things he said was he despised my LinkedIn picture, my profile picture on LinkedIn. Which I immediately changed it after that phone call. So it's not there anymore. But he said that in his words, I looked like a smug prick.
I really want to see that picture.
I'll send it to you afterwards. You can take a look.
Can I put it on the show notes? Can I put it in the show notes? Or
totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. He said that when he looked at that picture, he thought that, oh, this guy is total sales guy. He's just going to try and sell to me. And it's hard sales tactics. I don't want anything to do with them. And I remember taking that picture. I spent hours getting this thing just perfect. You know, the lighting setup and the camera angle. And remember, I did photography for a while, right? So I put a lot of effort into getting this just perfect. And that was exactly the wrong thing to do. It looked too perfect. It looked artificial. It did not look genuine, right? So that was one thing. I think I have a much more genuine picture up there with my lopsided smile and one eye open bigger than the other one or something. But the other thing was he was really torn because he truly liked the content that I was sending him, right? Every time I tried to contact him, I'd share something, and he liked that. He liked what our business was doing. He was interested in us, but he felt like if he responded, then boom, gates were open. I was going to hit him hard, right? Just relentlessly messaging him, calling him all the time, trying to sell him something. And he did not want that to happen. So he said that if I had sent him an email and just said, hey, you're probably worried that if you respond to me, then I'm going to light you up with all kinds of sales messages. I just want you to know that's not the case. You know, maybe you don't have time for me right now, or it's not a good time for us to do business. That's totally fine. Just want you to know that I'm not going to light you up if you respond. He said, if I had sent that email, he would have responded right away. So that was eye-opening for me.
Have you tried that email since with other prospects?
I haven't, not yet. No.
Are you going to?
Absolutely. Now that you've reminded me to be honest, I had forgotten about that part.
Yeah, I really want to hear the results, and I'm using you as my guinea pig. That's great. It's so good to get feedback from customers.
Yeah,
it's not always easy. Like sometimes you put your heart out there and you don't get the responses that you want, or you hear the feedback that you really didn't want to hear, which is the hardest part. Okay. Oh man. So how was it? Like, why did you decide to get a coach?
Because I didn't feel like I was doing very well at sales. I felt like there was just way more opportunity than I knew how to, or I wasn't efficient at it. I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. I guess that's what it comes down to. That's why I hired a coach.
It's a big thing where throughout like any sports, you played sports, or music or photography. You probably had someone teach you how to do it and stay with you. But for some reason, when we get into our career, we might get those things called mentors who are basically not available. Some are, but some are assigned and they're not available. And we forget that we had a basketball coach, we had a football coach, all kinds of coaches. Why don't we have one in our career? That's right. That's the part that pisses me off a little bit.
I've hired several coaches throughout my career.
I guess. Do they say bless you on a cough? No.
Sure, you can say bless with you. Yeah.
All right, bless you, man.
Yeah, thanks.
That was genuine. So, are you going to continue having coaches, or are you kind of like you think you're good?
Absolutely, yeah. I have a coach right now. He's a business development coach, Coach Troy. Shout out to you out there. And let's see, I've had two sales coaches over the years. And then I've also been part of a couple of different business development programs, which was kind of group coaching, I guess. There was um, strategic coach and entrepreneurs organization, both of which were wonderful.
Okay, nice. All right, and in terms of like sales, what do you think the next step, the next thing you're going to work on is?
Hmm.
Is that a good sentence? I don't know if that was a correct.
It's a great question for me to think about, and probably one I haven't been thinking enough about. Your audience might not like this answer. I think my next adventure in that space is probably more towards marketing than sales specifically. I haven't
Okay,
done a lot of marketing, but I think maybe that's the next thing.
so two questions.
Okay.
First one, why do you think my audience will like it?
Well, I don't know. Sales and marketing are generally thought of as like two different pools of people, right? I don't know. Do salespeople not like marketers and vice versa?
Well, so for us sales engineers, like a lot of our job is storytelling and that sort of thing, which works very well with marketing. I find sales engineers make great marketers because they work with the customers. They're very in tune with what's going on. They're very technical.
Yeah.
So they can actually be very good marketers. I haven't honestly don't have a relationship with my marketing team within my organization.
Yeah.
Whenever I ask them for stuff, I ask them for swag. So in my mind, that's what they're there for. But there's also technical marketing where you're creating content, you're going to like the trade shows and you have your own booth and you're doing stuff. And I think people have good relationships with that. And yeah.
Yeah, there's something intrinsically exciting for me about being able to influence a person, right? Like it's kind of a rush in a way to have
Yeah.
that skill. And sales for sure is about influencing people, and marketing is just doing that in another way, I think.
Marketing is doing it at scale
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not getting the feedback. Right? That's the hard part about marketing. Like you could get the clicks and that sort of thing, but when you're in sales, you get the PO, you knew that you did something right, or you can see
Yeah.
the look on someone's eyes. So I think it's a lot more personal, but yeah, like you're both of it as influencing people. And the second question was, I guess you already answered that. Why did you want to go into marketing? But you already answered that question. So now I have to come up with a new one.
Well, I like your distinction about sales being a little bit more one-on-one versus marketing being more of a mass audience.
Yeah.
And I don't think I had even understood it in that context. But now that you say it, yeah, we're starting this new initiative and we need to get visibility at a larger scale for it. So
I can tell you this, good marketers make salespeople's job much easier.
How
Because,
so?
well, if you have someone who's doing good marketing and putting out content, you're bringing in leads. And now people are downloading white papers, people are downloading webinars, whatever it is that they're looking at and putting in their information. They're willingly putting in their information. It's no longer a cold lead.
That's the goal. Yeah, for sure.
Right? So yeah, but I think there should be, if there isn't, there should be an appreciation between marketing and sales. And
They're complementary for sure, I think.
yeah. I mean, it's just much harder to cold call. There, you can only cold call so many people in a day. But if you get 1,000 people on your website and 10 people download a white paper, these are 10 good leads
For sure. Yeah.
at the right time. Right? It's not just because if you're cold calling, you can catch someone like a few months before they're ready or a few months after they did something with somebody else.
So tell me this, you're a real salesperson, not like me who's like homegrown, trying to figure it out kind of on my own. Do you still do a lot of cold calling these days?
So not in my company, right? I'm kind of in a weird spot where I'm a sales engineer hybrid with sales. So a lot of my customers are pre-existing customers and I just work with them over and over.
Got it.
And
Okay.
if there's any new customers, they usually come from a marketing lead. It's like, or someone requests a demo or someone connects with our support and says, hey, I want information about this. But my company has been around for 80 years. right? So we're well known.
Yeah.
If there's a new, and like I could cold call, but the people that I'm cold calling, the customers are like new startups who have $0 to spend with me.
Yeah.
So from a investing my time perspective, it's not a good
Doesn't make sense.
yeah, but bringing in leads. But if you were with a smaller company that's starting up, yeah, cold calling is kind of what they should be doing. There's also a role called SDR or BDR, sales development representative or business development representative. Their job is to cold call and set up leads and set up appointments for the salespeople. Does it make sense?
It does. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. You turned the tables on me.
It was, yeah, sorry, I do
No, it's
that.
okay.
It was, I did a lot of cold calling, and I'll do a few every now and then, but for me, it never seemed like it was super effective. And so I wonder what experiences other people have with cold calling.
Well, it's a numbers game. Like you have to call like maybe 40 people and get 3 meetings. It's a funnel again. Call
Yeah.
40 people, get 10 meetings, 3 of them cancel. So now you have 7 meetings. 3 are qualified, and 1 is actually a PO by the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus bringing in leads, like leads internally, it's just a much more effective way to do it, in my opinion.
I agree. Yep.
Like sales gurus might disagree with me. Like, oh, you're supposed to hustle. Like, I don't want to.
There are different kinds of hustle, I think, right?
Well, so you are familiar with Gary Keller? You were looking at commercial real estate. So
I don't know Gary Keller.
Founder of Keller Williams.
Oh, okay. All
and
right.
he has a few books, one of which was The One Thing. And in it, he says, if you're working beyond 8 to 5, you're cheating.
Interesting. Huh.
Right? Like, you have to be effective enough to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
By working these hours. Now,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't. I'm sure he worked longer hours too, but generally speaking, like you should be effective, right? Okay, so it is time to move on to the not so fire round, Mr. Moncur. These are the same 4 questions I ask almost every guest, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about them. So, I don't know if you answered the first question. I hope you didn't. You mentioned that you're a good listener. So, other than that, what is your superpower?
It's funny. Someone just asked me that yesterday, and I had to think about it. Yeah, yeah.
You must have been listening to the podcast.
Maybe the universe was just preparing me for this. Yeah, I think that one of my superpowers is the ability at being good enough at a large number of things that just happen to be useful for growing a business. I've said many times that the person who has exceptional technical skill but doesn't have the soft skills can only go so far in their career.
Yeah.
Whereas the person who has, good enough technical skills, maybe they're not stellar, but they're good enough. They're 80th percentile or so, but really exceptional soft skills. There's almost no limit to how far that person can go. And I'm good enough at a lot of different things: technical, communication, negotiation, problem solving, etc. And I find that oftentimes people are really good at a few things, but maybe not good enough at a lot of things. And I think I'm good enough at a lot of things.
That's funny. Like that was the topic of our conversation on your podcast.
Yeah,
right?
A little bit.
Having the soft skill. Is there something that you suck at that you still have to do?
Oh, let's see. Something I suck at that I still have to do.
And that's not part of the not so fire on. That's just a question that popped in my head right now.
Yeah. I'm sure there are many things I suck at that I still have to do. I was going to say that doing like really tedious detailed things, like right now I'm going through this user requirement specification. It's like 45 pages long, and I have to fill out the functional specification side of this, and I hate it so much. But I'm pretty good at it too, which kind of even makes it worse in a way. But something that I really suck and I still have to do.
Well, I think you answered the question better. Like, what is something that you have to do that feels heavy?
Yeah.
And there's a guy by the name of Brandon Turner. He was on the Bigger Pockets podcast. He was one of the first hosts there. And he talks about hiring out the things that are heavy so that you can do the things that feel light. And that was where I was getting to my question. Like, all right, you hate doing that. you hired so many people. Will you be hiring that out as well? Or
Yeah, I don't know. We're a small business still, right? There are like 20, 21, 22 of us, something like that. And so I still end up wearing multiple hats. Yeah, ideally my dream world, I don't have to do any of that stuff, but I'm not there yet. So I still end up doing some of these things on occasion.
what would be your next hire if you were to hire someone?
Well, someone to help me build out this new platform that I was talking about. We call it the Wave. It's this platform for engineers. And I would just love someone who is as enamored with the idea as I am, and someone that I can work hand in hand with to help push that forward.
Is that like a software web developer, software engineer type, or more of a mechanical?
Probably more of a mechanical person in the
Okay.
beginning. Yeah, but eventually we'd need software engineers.
Okay. So if anyone listening,
Yeah.
I'll put Aaron's LinkedIn at the bottom. It's a
Yeah,
nice picture this
perfect.
time. It's not the scary one. So that was question number one. Question number two is, what would you change about what you're doing today?
Mm. Well, if my ideal world, I would not have to do any project management. I would not have to review any contracts. I would not have to put together any quotes, because those things to me are not interesting, not exciting. I would be able to spend 95% of my time focusing on the vision of the future of the company and building towards that future.
Yeah, I would say those are not revenue generating either. Right? It's like
Yeah, I
building a quote.
guess.
Anyone, like, you can provide the bill of material and someone else can build it, right? So yeah, I agree with you. Oh, I guess.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, everything we do is really custom. So like you need a really in-depth knowledge of kind of the whole
I'm not
process.
disputing that, but it's not, you're not in front of the customer. Let's just put it that way. Right?
Arguably, it's not the best use of my time, but
Yeah.
someone has to do it, and there aren't enough other people to do it. So.
Oh, believe me, like I do quotes. So because I'm the hybrid and I'm doing sales now, I
Yeah.
do quotes and we use Salesforce.
Uh-huh.
And when are you familiar with Salesforce?
I know the name
Yeah.
anyway. I haven't used it.
When it came out, it was great. Now it's so slow because it's gotten so big that it takes
Oh,
me hours
really?
to do a quote and just pisses me off. And like I am trying to find someone within my team to offload that too. I don't have the power to hire anybody. All right. Is there a resource you would recommend for people in your boat, like how to learn how to be better at sales? You already, I guess, said a bunch of stuff, or like to run a business.
Yeah, I thought the Sandler program was great for me anyway. I mean, someone coming in without any formal sales training or experience, that was very helpful for me. I did like a 6-month program there, and I felt like I learned a lot, took a lot of notes, and I still refer to them to this day. As far as business development, I think that joining coaching groups is really helpful. Entrepreneurs organization is excellent. If I had my pick, that's where I would start. I mentioned strategic coach as well, which was also great, but in my opinion, the value was just better at entrepreneurs organization. EO, it's usually referred to as. So those are a couple great ones, and I think books are fantastic. I read books all the time, or these days mostly I listen to books.
Right.
There's a program. This is, I think, just generally applicable. Salespeople find it useful. Anyone would find it useful. This program called Lead the Field by Earl Nightingale. It's an old one, but it's kind of like Star Wars in that it's as relevant now as it was when it came out, and you don't listen to it and think, oh, this is so outdated and old. Just incredible advice for any professional. Awesome program.
So it's a program, not a book. Lead the Field.
Well, it's a book. I mean, they
Okay.
call it a program or whatever, but it's you can get it, an audio book. It's like a 4-hour listen or something.
Okay, nice. Last question, or the question before last: Star Trek or Star Wars? Nah, never mind. That's not a question.
Star Wars for sure.
Yeah. All right, last question of the not so fire on. Is there a habit you're working on today to improve in your personal or professional life?
Yeah. There's one that I was actually just thinking about this morning. I watched this show called, I think it was called Limitless. Maybe.
Yeah, it's from a movie, based on a movie by Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, so okay, I may have misspoke. I know the movie you're talking about, maybe, but that's not the one. It was I think it was like a Disney Plus thing with
Okay.
Chris Hemsworth, and it was all about how do we increase our longevity, right? And
Okay.
anyway, I'm getting off topic here. Something I noticed about him, and he's an actor, so
Yeah.
who knows, maybe it's just all an act, but even in these really difficult situations that they put him in, he seemed to have a really great sense of humor about it. Like
Right.
he was still pleasant and personable even in these really stressful situations. And I think that um when I'm in a difficult situation, things aren't going my way, I never get like, pissed off and ornery at people and start biting at people or anything like that. But I'm not like super happy, right? I'm not smiling and joking around either. I thought that would be a really great thing for me to work on, to be more pleasant and have a better sense of humor when things are not going very well for me.
Right. How do you work on that?
I don't know. I just thought about that like this morning, literally.
Yeah.
So uh,
Yeah.
I need to
That would
think
be
about that.
interesting to
Yeah, yeah.
figure out how to work on that. Okay.
I think awareness is part of it though, right? Just like
Yeah.
knowing that that's something you want to work on and keeping that in front of you. I like to keep lists. That's one of my big productivity hacks is keeping lists. So that's on my list now of things that I should work on and I'll look at it from time to time.
Nice. Aaron, we've come to the end of our show. Was there a question you were hoping I was going to ask you, but I did not?
Hmm. I was hoping you were going to ask me, how did I get to be so handsome? And I haven't heard that one yet,
All
but
right. Well, this brings us to the
okay.
end of the show. So, how did you get to be so handsome, Aaron?
Well, it's my baby face,
Yeah.
just good
This is cool.
genes. Yeah.
All right, well, this was fun. If someone wants to connect with you to tell you how handsome you are, where can they do that?
You can go to just find me on LinkedIn and you will see my not as handsome, very much more genuine picture there. Send me a
Uh,
message.
I can tell you that it is very genuine.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Aaron.
Ramsey, thanks a lot, man. That was fun. Thanks.
My pleasure. Thank you, Aaron, for coming on. Please, everybody, whoever wants to tell Aaron that he is so handsome, go to his LinkedIn right now and just send him a message. Don't introduce yourself. Just say, I'm here because you're handsome. And hopefully he'll know that it's because of this podcast. It'll be a funny little joke, an inside joke between me, you, and him. So please do that. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you learned something from Aaron. And I'm a big believer of coaching. I do coach SEs myself. I have my own coaches who help me with my business and also help me with sales engineering. So I enjoyed talking to Aaron. It was fun for me to talk to Aaron. Anyways, I just he's very likable. So it was fun for me to talk to him. And the knowledge that he shared today, I resonated with. I hope you did as well. If you did, tell me what resonated the most with you. Leave a comment somewhere, either on LinkedIn or on YouTube. Just leave a comment, let me know what it is, or email it to me. I don't care, as long as you tell me something. So that's it for today. I appreciate you being here, and we'll see you soon. This is me signing off.